Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim speaking on Monday, the 16th of January. So, looking at the euro dollar first, and firstly, Friday we managed to, I was a bit uh, happily surprised on Friday, managed to up day after doing that sort of shooting star into the 50. I was wondering whether we'd roll over. But today, pushing up, it was currently. We've got a weekly pivot underneath us. These are hit generally quite early in the week, so there is a potential for that to roll over and catch that at some point, and makes for a relatively modest target at the moment. And it just may not give us an entry, but it may also give a bounce. Now, there's a couple of conflicts still sits there in some respects in terms of the dailies, the 50, etc., still facing south, but we've had the shorter term daily moving averages cross here. We're above the 50 now, we're above the monthly pivot. Even if we come back to the weekly pivot, we're still above the monthly pivot, which is erring towards the bullish side. So the erring is certainly there. Short-term picture where we've got this lower high come in at the moment on the 4 hourly, so lower low. So there's the potential, as I say, to come back for that weekly pivot at around about 105,929. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that, as I say, relatively early, looking at where the price is at the moment. If we do, it does leave us open then. The daily pivot is above us, and it looks to me pretty much untouched, but it may give us an opportunity for a bounce off that to play the upside there. We'll see how it happens, and when it happens, I mean, it may run through the daily weekly pivot. There's no guarantee it'll stop there, but we'll just watch what happens at these levels. And I would still erring a bit more long side potential, but we'll see how it plays out this morning. It's not so clear, particularly as you switch to cable. Now, cable has a rather large gap. It also has a weekly pivot above us. The gap, obviously Theresa May comments and other comments of potential hard Brexit. Relatively, I think in the main, most are expecting this. This has now made new all-time lows here. Well, I say all-time near-term lows. I should rephrase that. It's about 15 years. I can't remember how many years back now we have to go back to see these lows. But all the same, there's almost an expectation, which makes me wonder if we'll see this gap filled this morning. We'll see, or today, tomorrow, as we run through. It is quite a sizable gap, but not one that can't be filled. So there's a couple of targets above us. Of course, the weekly pivot. I was going to call it a pivot. Perhaps we should call the pivot a pivot in the future. The pivot is a weekly and daily pivot are together there at 121.83. Maybe a big ask, but we'll see how it is. We're just hanging in there around the S3 area at the moment. For me to get long, I possibly need a little bit more of a confirmation of this move and upside. Certainly break that hourly 8, my preference, before I was looking for potential longs. And then we've got the possibility of the hourly 21s as at least initial targets. It does, of course, look bearish, and there's the great unknown, but we may learn some more today, tomorrow. I'm not sure which day the Prime Minister is due to be speaking and outlining a further outline of her potential or their potential plans. So anyway, it's out there in the market again. Hard exit's been mooted before, so it's not the first time. And the previous time, I think we had a bit of a recovery. We may get another recovery. We'll see. Okay, Tuesday. Thank you very much. Someone's just told me. So looking out for Tuesday when she outlines the details in a bit more detail. Right, dollar yen. So looking at dollar yen, continuing my bearish preference, which is good, to the point where we have got a bit of divergence on the 4 hourlies here. There's not an automatic buy point back to the weekly pivot, but the weekly pivot is back and above us. Would like to see that taken out. It's not always immediately taken out, but happens earlier, sooner rather than later quite often. for the weekly pivot as a sort of a bit of a target at least. I'd like to see again the alley eights broken. 21s could create a bit of a problem here as well. We'll just see how this market reacts really. But my preference is to be to the downside, so maybe I just leave some of this and wait and look for it, the price action accordingly. Certainly, it's an easier route on the downside at the moment. Some of the bigger moves are to the downside, news aside. Okay, Aussie dollar. The Aussie dollar's been continuing its recovery. It's holding in there at the moment to the 100, 200 moving average there on the dailies. Again, weekly pivots below us, and well, there's still the potential to come back and catch that, and that may have a better target. We're sitting around about 74, 34 is about 40 pips in that. If it does start, well, we may just need a little bit more confirmation that it's running over this morning, but if it starts breaking down a bit further, it's certainly a decent target. That's hit the daily pivot already. Yes, it has to go through its S1, but the pivots are a bit pinched from having Friday had a rather tight range. So certainly a possibility down to that weekly pivot. Now, if we start rallying, getting above the 50 MA, well, we could be on for last week's highs there and towards the R1 area. Canadian dollar, it's already caught the weekly pivot. It's got the easiest route to the downside. We were talking about this last week. There's a few times that it just had hardly anything in its way, and it's sitting there consolidated. Yes, it put a bit of a hammer in last on Friday, but it's Thursday, but Friday managed to sell and close below that hammer. And I'm just wondering, well, we've already caught the weekly pivot, whether if it starts breaking down below these prior lows here, around the 131.10 area, it could be on for further downside. Doesn't give one much of a target, but there's certainly I'd be looking at sort of last Thursday's lows there, maybe at some point or towards that area at least. So it does look like there's further potential. Of course, if all these markets, if we start seeing a bit of well, actually, we need a bit of dollar weakness maybe to get some of the pivots. Dollar strength rather. We could see this just reverse round for a little bit as well. Sorry, did I say dollar weakness? We want dollar strength. No, weakness for the daily, strength for the weeklies out of the way. Okay, that's pretty much it. Today it's Martin Luther King Day, so it's a bank holiday in the US. I expect the afternoon to be a bit lighter in volumes, etc., but may still create some volatility and may sometimes more. We've got a speaker this evening at 6:30, so that'll be after my trading session, but the Bank of England governor is speaking at 6:30, which may give a bit of volatility. I don't know, due to deliver a speech titled Policy Issues Affecting the Bank of England. I mean, I don't know if we'll see any more movement from that in terms of whether it's going to be released earlier, but the speech, but certainly it could create some volatility. That's just about it for today. So very light day in terms of news and action. So have a great one. Bye for now.